Welcome to the deep dive. For months now, the whole creative world really, it feels like it's been buzzing about one thing. Artificial intelligence. What's its place? Especially in art.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe nowhere more intensely than in music, right? It's this constant tension.
Totally. Copyright, ethics,
Sure.
what even is a song anymore if an AI made half of it? The debates are just ongoing.
It really feels like an inflection point. You've got fear on one side, opportunity on the other, and the major labels, they've been kind of stuck, haven't they? Trying to fight AI taking over while also figuring out, well, how do we make money from this?
Which brings us to today's deep dive. Because one of the giants, music label group MLG, they just made a massive move, a surprising one.
Yeah, they basically decided to stop just reacting and start, well, defining the terms.
Exactly. So October 7th, 2025, MLG announces this new experimental division. They're calling it the AI Label Group, AILG for short. But this isn't just, another tech investment story. What really caught our eye and what we want to unpack today is the philosophy behind it. It's specific, very specific.
Right. So the mission for us today is to really get into this hybrid model MLG is proposing. Why this approach? What are these strict rules they're putting in place? And maybe most importantly, what does it all mean for artists and for you listening?
Okay, let's dive in. So instead of trying to ban everything, which we've seen some quarters push for, MLG is, leaning in, but with a really clear boundary.
A hard line?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
this is the policy that makes AILG stand out right away, the 80% human framework.
80%. That number just jumps out, doesn't it? It's the core of their whole announcement.
So what does it mean practically?
Well, the mandate, as they put it, is that every single project from AILG, whether it's a song, an album, even the visual stuff, it has to be made up of at least 80% human-created elements.
80%. That sounds
No,
complicated to measure in art.
it does. And it suggests this isn't just some loose creative guideline. It feels more like they're trying to draw a legal line.
Ah, okay. So you think the why behind 80% might be more legal than artistic.
I think that's a huge part of it. Look at the copyright situation, especially, say, in the US. To get copyright protection, to actually own something, you generally need a certain amount of original human creativity.
Right. The human authorship requirement.
Exactly. So if MLG can point to a policy, maybe even internal audits, showing 80% human work, they've got a much stronger case for owning the masters, the publishing. They sidestep that whole legal mess where AI is seen as the main creator and nobody owns anything.
So it's like a preemptive legal shield built into the creative process.
It certainly looks that way. A calculated defense, you could say, framed as a creative principle. Very clever.
Okay, so asset protection is definitely part of the why, but they did frame it artistically too, right? The CEO, Opio Boyd, he had quite a bit to say.
He did. Boyd was very clear. He called AI, and I'm quoting loosely here, perhaps the most powerful creative tool of our generation. Big statement.
There was a but.
Oh, yeah. Right after that, he insisted it is not a replacement for the human soul. That distinction seems critical to their whole message.
Tool versus replacement. That's the core concept they're selling.
It's all about enhancement. The official line is they want to empower and to enhance ideas. They see it as a collaboration. Human creativity boosted by machine intelligence to find, new sounds, new efficiencies.
So AI is a partner in the studio, not necessarily the artist itself, or at least not entirely.
Right, and that vision explains why AILG isn't just one thing. They've actually split it into two main areas of focus.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first one?
The first one, and this is the one that gets the headlines, is AI artist development. This is where they're really experimenting with new types of content, new IP.
So this is the virtual artist stuff.
Pretty much. Experimenting with creating and managing artists who aren't, human. Using AI to help shape their sound, their look, their whole online persona and musical output.
Okay, but how does the 80% rule fit in there if the artist is virtual?
Ah, crucial point. They're saying this development relies on AI algorithms, yes, but it's always combined with a dedicated team of human songwriters, human producers, brand strategists, people.
So even the virtual pop star needs a human team behind the curtain pulling the strings.
And ensuring that 80% human contribution is met and presumably documented. It's about controlling the process, even for non-human entities.
Got it. Okay, what's the second focus area?
The second area is maybe less flashy, but potentially more impactful internally, certainly in the short term. It's AI-assisted production. They're calling it the Innovation Hub.
An innovation hub. So this is for their existing artists, the human ones.
Exactly. It's like an internal service department.
Right.
AIG provides MLG's current roster, the big names, the established acts, with access to these cutting-edge AI tools.
For what kinds of tasks? Is it just making beats?
It's broader than that, it seems. Yes, things like generating melodic ideas or complex harmonies, but also streamlining business tasks, analyzing streaming data to plan tours better, maybe even testing marketing concepts. It's about efficiency and giving their current stars an edge.
Huh. That's interesting. So it's not just about making the music, but the business around the music too.
Right. Which is smart if you look at these two areas together.
Yeah.
Well, AI artist development tackles the future, creating new IP in this new landscape. But the Innovation Hub, that protects and enhances their current big moneymakers, the human stars.
It addresses both sides of the AI coin then, the opportunity for new stuff and the anxiety from existing artists.
Absolutely. The virtual artists feed that market desire for novelty. The hub reassures the current roster that AI is here to help them make them more efficient, not replace them. It's actually quite a clever piece of internal messaging alongside the external strategy.
Okay, but let's get practical. The 80% rule. It sounds good, but how on earth do you measure that? Music is subjective. How do you prove 80% human input when an AI might have generated the initial idea? That feels like the hardest part.
That is the big question, and probably where the skepticism comes in. MLG tried to give a concrete example, an analogy really, to make it clearer. They used drum patterns.
Okay, tell me about the drum pattern analogy.
So imagine a producer's working on a track. They ask the AI, give me some drum patterns. The AI spits out, say, 10 different options in like 2 seconds.
Okay, AI originated the options.
Right. But then the human producer must step in. They have to actively choose one pattern out of the 10. And not just choose it, but likely edit it, significantly change the timing, the accents, maybe even replay parts of it themselves. Or perhaps listen to all 10, hate them, and create something entirely new inspired by or in reaction to the AI's failure.
So the AI is like a super fast brainstorming tool, but the human makes the final creative call on what actually goes into the song.
That's the idea. And MLG specifically compared this to sampling.
Sampling. Okay, that's a concept musicians understand.
Exactly. It's a familiar process where you take something existing and transform it through human choice and manipulation. By framing it like sampling, they're trying to position it as a known form of human-led creativity.
And they also said the human songwriter is still key, right, for lyrics and the emotional core.
Yes, they emphasize that. Lyrics, melody, the core emotional message that's still presented as firmly in the human domain, and presumably that counts for a big chunk of the 80%.
But does that really solve the anxiety? If I'm a producer just clicking through AI options and tweaking them slightly, am I really creating in the same way? Or am I just, an editor fulfilling a quota? That's what some artists might worry about.
And that's the valid counter argument you hear. Critics say this 80% rule might just shift the human role towards being a curator, a filter, rather than the primary source of originality.
Yeah.
But MLG's position, based on what they've said, seems to be that curation is creation, that selecting, editing, integrating, deciding why this AI-generated bit works here, that is the essential human creative act in this new workflow.
So the 80% framework, it's their answer to the chaos. It's meant to reassure artists, reassure the market, and crucially, let MLG own the output.
Own it and control it. That seems to be the driving force.
Okay, so MLG makes this big announcement, draws this line in the sand. What was the reaction? You'd think maybe panic from competitors or maybe pushback?
Interestingly, not so much panic, more like quiet acknowledgement. A lot of industry analysts actually called it a really shrewd move.
Shrewd. Why shrewd?
Well, there are a few key reasons, and they mostly boil down to control. First, setting up a separate division, AILG, lets MLG experiment with AI in a contained way. It's not messing with their main label operations directly. Limits the risk,
Okay, controlled environment. Makes sense.
Yeah.
What else?
Second, they get to define the rules of engagement first. They set their own standard, this 80% rule, for what ethical and creative AI collaboration looks like. They're shaping the conversation before governments or anyone else steps in with potentially less favorable rules.
Setting the standard themselves.
There.
Proactive.
Very. And third, and this is maybe the most, competitive aspect, by developing all this advanced AI capability in-house within AILG, They're essentially keeping the most powerful tools close to their chest. It's not easily available to every artist on their roster, and certainly not to smaller indie labels. It centralizes that technological power.
Right, so it could be seen as widening the gap between major labels and independents, even while appearing progressive.
That's definitely a critique you could make, but from MLG's perspective, it solidifies their competitive advantage while they navigate this tech shift.
So it's a balancing act. Embrace the tech, manage the risks, set the terms, and maintain control. And their overall view seems to be that this isn't just a phase.
No, they're very clear on that. They see AI in music not as some temporary fad, but as a fundamental evolution in how music is made. The quote that stuck out was, "The music isn't changing, but the way we make it is about to get a whole lot more interesting."
An evolution, not a replacement. That 80% rule is their bet on how to manage that evolution profitably.
It seems to be. Keep humans central enough to satisfy legal and maybe ethical concerns, but use AI enough to gain efficiency and new creative sparks.
There's just one thing missing from all this, isn't there? The actual music.
Yes, the elephant in the room. MLG announced AILG back in October 2025, set up this whole framework, but they haven't actually told us when we'll hear the first track produced under this 80% rule.
So the industry, artists, listeners like you, we're all still waiting to hear what 80% human actually sounds like.
Exactly. The proof will be in the listening whenever that first release finally drops.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the key takeaways for you, the listener. We've seen MLG make this calculated bet on a hybrid future for music creation.
Yep. Anchored by that critical 80% human framework, which seems to be as much about legal ownership as artistic integrity.
And they're pursuing this through two main avenues: experimenting with AI-driven virtual artists, but also providing AI tools as assistants to their existing human stars via the Innovation Hub.
It's really a comprehensive strategy for navigating and maybe controlling the AI wave.
But it leaves us with some big questions moving forward.
Definitely. MLG is setting a very public benchmark here. The huge question is, will it stick? If the music is successful, will other labels feel pressured to adopt similar human percentage rules, to keep artists and maybe even consumers on board?
And how they even prove it, that 80% is just marketing, or is there real substance and enforcement behind it? That feels critical for credibility.
It really does. And maybe the biggest question of all for you listening. When that first AILG track comes out, built on this 80% human, 20% AI model, will you care about the percentage? Will you even be able to hear a difference? What defines human in music when the tools change so radically?
That's the question we'll all be listening for an answer to. What will you be listening for? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into what could be the next chapter in music.